I'm Michael Halperin, and I wrote 2 books that are essential for anyone who wants to be a screenwriter or write for television. One book is called Writing the Killer Treatment, and the other one is called Writing the Second Act. In my screenwriting class, students often pitch notions for short films and then write their screenplays. Of course, I always ask them about their second act, and the reply that I often hear is, "Stuff happens," which may be a great title for a David Hare play about the run-up to the Iraq War, but doesn't cut it when developing a screenplay. Now, let's take a look at what Aristotle said in his Poetics. A whole is that which has a beginning, a middle, and an end. Now, the first act sets up the conflict to come with seeds that develop and blossom in the second and third act. The third act presents conflict resolution. The second act inherently has character development, amplifies conflict, and heightens tension, as well as providing the reader, that's the person who's going to buy that screenplay, and the audience with a reason to become involved and continue with the story. And once writers understand the principles behind dramatic structure, and that includes comedy as well, and work within and master classical structure, they can break out and go completely mad if they want to, creating nonlinear stories or existential tales or deconstructionist stories. And great motion pictures, from Chaplin's Modern Times and the Great Dictator, to Mankiewicz and Wells' Citizen Kane, and Green's The Third Man through Puzo, and Coppola's The Godfather trilogy, and into Stanton, Doctor, and Reardon's Wall-E. Use the 3-act framework, with the major part of the story told within the second act. As a matter of fact, almost every Hitchcock film that you've ever seen follows that paradigm religiously. And the second act involves suspicion, miscues, anxieties, game playing, and all the other elements comprising the dramatic, romantic, or comedy genres. Focus. You have to know why you're writing the story. Logic. Create the worlds within which our characters live. And character, which is the most important, is we have to understand who they are, where they come from, where they're going, and what motivates them. Now, what does all this have to do with the second act? Well, every one of these elements must find their way into the center of the story and pull the audience with it. Because without a strong setup, the second act will fall apart, or worse, lose steam, because there's nothing to hang the action on to impel the characters forward or hold the audience's interest. The second act is an ever-evolving turmoil that develops with a major crisis or several crises, expanding the world in which the characters live. The risks they face are physical, emotional, and moral. And although Act 1 sets up the characters and their surface motivations, the second act develops the subtext of the characters and the story, and we have to provide the tools in order for the audience to understand the who and why of those characters. Now, assuming we start with a good story and a setup of interesting characters who push the story forward, then the second act becomes the arena where our protagonists can really operate and also reach for the rewards that are out there. Now, rewards can be as real as money or treasure. Take a look at National Treasure or any of the Indiana Jones films. Or it can be an intangible reward, such as love, and Dan in Real Life, or the existential Lars and the Real Girl, or self-discovery, like in Wall-E, both love and self-discovery, even if they're robots, and Dark Knight, ostensibly a comic book adventure, but in reality a journey inward for Batman Bruce Wayne to discover his true nature. So the second act is the core of the story, where conflict and tension develop to a high degree. And the refinement of tension becomes the center of the creative act, and only if the writer has planted the proper seeds in Act 1 and nurtured them in Act 2 will it work. Let's return to the Aristotelian ideal. A great Act 1 requires a superlative second act in order to bring the screenplay to a satisfying end. And if you read Writing the Second Act, I think you'll have a really good Bible or guide towards developing your story and your screenplay.